live from there. Looks good. I like that. Oh, because you have nails that you could use. I think that's fine. It just seems dark.
Now my battery's running dead. Nice, 5%.
Starting off strong. That's why I always charge my stuff beforehand. But I wanted to bring up. I saw this today. We were talking about the randomness of TikTok last time.
Yes.
Today, I don't know why, but I've been seeing it nonstop. But apparently, some fisher, like one of those competitive fishing tournaments, this guy that's been winning for years, they decided this time they wanted to check his fish out. He's been putting lead balls in all of his fish for years, apparently. So it's like I see them cutting the fish open. They're like, ball, but it's so funny to watch these people get mad over fishing. Like I know some people are really into that.
You said the chest cheating with the anal.
Yeah, with the anal. Yeah, but
now they're saying a woman was doing it in poker.
It's possible. Yeah, I don't know how that works. I mean, that's probably a level of cheating that I don't even understand. But
I don't want to know.
Yeah. It was just funny. This guy slices open the fish because they go by the fish that they catch. I always thought that it had to be live fish, or that's what I've heard. I shouldn't say like I've been paying attention.
That's what you do.
You catch
fish
the live fish.
Was alive, or at least.
But he's been putting. I mean, they look like little cannonballs that he's been putting in the fish, and they're like, oh. But it's funny because all these people are like, oh.
Unbelievable.
And all 20 people that are there, they're like, how dare you? How much money have you costed me over the years?
They've been trading for years for this. Every morning out in the lake.
Yeah, and I guess one of the fish he caught just didn't look the weight that it did, so they're like, let's check this one out, and then they cut it open, and he's got 8 lead cannonballs in there, basically.
So what does he do? He puts them on his hook?
Yeah, so I think the way it works is they go out into the water, right? Yeah. They say you have 3 hours to get as many fish as you can. Oh, so
they're not watching them.
Yeah, so he brings it up, and then as they're in, he's just stuffing these cannonballs into the guy. Yeah. I've seen 30 videos on my TikTok feed of this guy.
That's kind of cruel to the animal, to the fish.
Anyway, do you want to start today or you want me to? We can go. I got the juicy ones this week.
You can start first because you didn't start last time.
Okay. We're going to go. I thought this article was pretty good. No more Mr. Wife Guy. Lesson from the Try Guys cheating scandal. Okay. Try Guys. Do you know who the Try Guys are?
No.
Sit back, mother. Sit back.
I just said time limit.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom's like, we have to start doing time limits. I'm like, what?
I said we have to be efficient.
People want 4-hour podcasts. Okay?
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, so the Try Guys were one of the, before Mr. Beast, before all these big YouTubers, they were like the poster child for YouTube. They were like the BuzzFeed. I don't know if they started on BuzzFeed, but let me give you the timeline of what kind of happened to these guys. So when I was growing up, kind of high school, they were huge. Like they were the poster child channel for YouTube. It was made up of 4 guys. You had Eugene, Ned, Kevin. I forget the last guy. I think it's a Tim or a Matt, whatever.
Why is it called Try if there are 4 guys?
So the Try Guys are like TRY, not TRI.
Okay, to try.
What they would do is they would try different things. Like it would be archery, shooting, whatever. Like they would just try different things. Yep, that was the thing. So I don't remember when, but these guys, the channel made a huge shift. One guy, Eugene, came out as being homosexual. Nothing wrong with that. But at the time, it really changed the dynamic of the show, which is why they kind of, I don't want to say plummeted viewers, but I'm trying to put this nicely, but basically this channel, again, it's great that he came out, but the channel revolved around that for like a year. Right, they changed
the focus.
And YouTube at the time was promoting the wokeness, and it became like archery and shooting to let's do makeup, let's do hot yoga. And it just, when I started my YouTube channel for actually producing content, when I transferred everything over to like my own personal account and I cut out kind of the ones that I wasn't interested in anymore, that was one of them.
And I made you get rid of the glitter ones.
Yeah. Hey, she's kidding. But so they were still a successful channel, but they weren't the channel that they once were. A lot of people started coming in that were just bigger. Like that's kind of when Mr. Beast started coming in, becoming the number one. The fight between PewDiePie and T-Series started becoming more prevalent. But now, as of this week, remember, these guys are the poster child for YouTube. They always get their videos promoted by YouTube because they're kind of woke, if you would say. Like, they're really child-friendly. That's probably what I mean, like family-friendly.
Okay.
And the one guy gets caught in a cheating scandal with one of the people that works there. So there's a woman there, I guess. I didn't go into details on the names, but one of the guys...
At Facebook, you mean, or at the Try
Guys. Facebook has nothing to do with it.
I thought you meant the... Okay, go ahead.
I don't know where you got Facebook from.
Because they're on Facebook, you said. So you
said...
Did
I? No, no, all on YouTube. Did I say Facebook at some point?
Yeah, you might have, but okay, you're right. YouTube, go ahead.
Anyway, so one guy gets caught cheating, and they completely cut ties with this guy.
Okay.
So now you have 4 down to 3. Now here's the problem with this. The Try Guys have been these 4 guys for probably 10 years now, maybe more. So when I think Try Guys, I think 4 guys. When you go down to 3, the entire dynamic shifts.
But is Eugene still one of the 3, or is he the one that was cut?
No, Eugene's just the one that came out at the time, and just the channel revolved around him.
He's
It's always
3.
been the 4 guys.
Okay,
yeah,
but he remained one of the 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what, Mom, were you saying they should cut him out because of his homosexuality?
You said before that you were...
No, I'm just saying that the dynamic shifted. So because of the dynamic shift, and the show kind of revolving around one guy rather than it being equal amongst the 4, it kind of took, not a nosedive, but I know a lot of people my age kind of moved on. Yeah. Not because of the whole situation, but because the whole dynamic changed.
Yeah.
Now that you get rid of a whole guy over a cheating allegation, which, don't get me wrong, is terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens to this channel. Luckily, the smart thing that they did was weeks ago, they started kind of doing videos like, oh, Ned's not here. Why is that, you know?
But here's my question. What difference does it make that he was cheating in his private life, or is it the videos about him cheating?
No, it became public, so they cut him out because of the incident. But the video wasn't...
Well, what difference does it make? I don't really understand. That's because people don't like that? Or they don't want to know that he's cheating?
Cheating on his wife.
No, I know, but what does it have to do with their what they were doing, what they were videotaping? How does that impact...
Well, if you're like a family-friendly channel, and you have a guy that's in a cheating scandal,
right?
Gotcha. With having an affair with someone at the office, right? One of the workers.
Not good. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I just didn't understand.
They completely cut this guy off. So now it's 4 guys down to 3. So now it's literally the Try Guys.
TRI.
Yeah. So it's just interesting how this is kind of... It's interesting because you're going from a dynamic of these 4 guys. This entire channel revolves around 4 guys.
Right.
You can't just slip a new guy in. That's kind of like what happened to Impractical Jokers.
Yes.
You know that show?
Yep.
One of them went through a nasty divorce, unfortunately, and then couldn't be in the show anymore, and then went down to 3 guys. They tried throwing in a new guy, and semi-worked. But when you're a big channel, like Try Guys, who, I mean, you have your demographic is probably... like 40-year-olds and 12-year-olds. Like you don't really have the 20-year-olds anymore. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see what happens to this channel. Again, they've done a really good job. They have a whole PR team. They're huge. So they're
so let me give you my old lady perspective. Ready? The show Bewitched. You know, with
was that
Liz
the
Montgomery?
One? Yeah.
She started with Dick York as her husband. Dark hair. Had his own distinct look. After, I don't know, 1 season, I think, or maybe 2. They started the next season with the new husband, and I can't think of his name, but he had blondish brown hair, and they never even discussed it.
Oh, this is not the same show that I was thinking of.
And Roseanne. Remember Roseanne the comedy?
Yeah.
So Roseanne's oldest daughter, she was on the show for maybe 4 years. For some reason, she left. I don't remember why. And they brought in Sarah Chalke, I think her name was. She's the one that was on Scrubs, the blonde from Scrubs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They brought her in, and they made a joke about it. Like, you look different, that kind of thing. Yeah. But then they seamlessly did it. Fast forward like a couple more seasons, they bring the old daughter back, right? And they made a joke about that.
Like, hey.
Right. And then the most recent one, Last Man Standing, with Tim Allen.
Oh,
they revamped the whole cast, well, a portion of the cast when they left one channel and moved to Fox.
Right. One of the daughters changed, and they acted like nothing happened.
Well, the first season, the oldest daughter didn't come back for some reason. The original oldest daughter. That's when they brought in the blondish hair girl. Then they switched channels, and then the one middle daughter, she left also. And I think timing of it, they weren't sure if they were going to bring the series back. And when they did, she was committed to some other show. But every now and then they'll make a joke about these things, which is kind of their new way of doing it, to kind of introduce to the audience that, we all know it's not the same person, but
something happened. Yeah, right. You kind of have to address it. But so with this whole situation with the Try Guys, I don't know what happens to this poster child YouTube channel, because again, you're taking away a whole dynamic. It's like, imagine having the family where there's 3 kids, and all of a sudden they take away a kid, and it's like, what happened to that one? And they don't even explain it.
I'm trying to think if that's happened on any show.
Yeah, probably. You know what show? that didn't do a great job was 2.5 Men when Charlie Sheen had to leave and they bring in Ashton Kutcher.
Yes, they killed him.
That was one. And then remember, like a year, that only lasted for like a season. So again, they did the smart play. Their PR team was genius about this, was to like kind of slowly weed them out of videos. Mm-hmm. But I don't know what you're going to do without the third person. Can you throw in a fourth that has the same dynamic as the guy that left or was cut out?
Well, I don't know. Is it the same audience, or do they get new audience members with young families?
I'd love to see their demographic charts. That's like YouTubers for our channels. We don't get to. I can't go see someone else's demographic unless I physically ask them, "Hey, can I see yours?" But I'll show you ours one of these days, just so you have a reference. But yeah, if I were to guess,
I'm gonna negotiate more money when I see.
Yeah. How many pennies do you want? No. So my guess is their demographic is probably adults who watch with their kids.
Yeah.
Like if they want a YouTube show to watch with their kids, probably that. They do have good content. Don't get me wrong. They've always had good content, especially if you're like, it's something new every day. So that does help. So one day it's like, let's get like full body waxes, or like let's get our ears, get the earwax out of your ears, which for some reason, some of them are pretty cool. But yeah, the first time when that dynamic shift happened, it was all makeup and let's do hot yoga and whatever. But it was still the four guys.
Right.
Even though the show, it felt like it revolved around one person. Now it's back to what it was. When you lose one whole part of that, I don't know how you recover. Right? Can you do it with just three guys? Do you add a fourth? That's why I'm very curious to see what happens with this one.
Yeah, adding a fourth. I mean, unless you need that fourth person. But what's concerning is they may slot a fourth person in to appease the wokesters, and now you got even more.
Yeah, well, YouTube does
of a changing dynamic.
Yeah, YouTube does benefit you. The real problem is if you do a female, because if they add a female, it's not the try guys anymore; it's the try people.
Oh yeah, right? And they'll do something like that.
It's possible. They're at that level of. I can't really put into words how the
Unless
dynamic
they do like to change it to TRI guys and her.
Yeah, well, or they'll just make it the try guys with an I, which would be fine.
Or if they added a woman,
my guess is they're going to try
and
add
her. You know?
My guess is they're going to try and add someone, but the problem, right? These guys are like, I don't know how it started, but my guess is high school friends that wanted to start a YouTube channel, or like they've had this dynamic for years.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to bring in.
To add someone that's just like, hi, I'm here now. Like even your audience is going to be like.
Well, it's probably a little weird too when the guy just dropped off and you didn't see him anymore.
Yeah.
Especially for young kids.
Speaking of wokeness and leaving, did you see Trevor Noah left The Daily Show? You know, I'm kind of happy about this because his
ratings were really low.
I think his ratings were low, but he kind of woke up a little bit in the sense of he didn't follow he kind of stopped doing the whole picking a side and kind of leaning to that side. He started to think more for himself. Especially more so when Rogan got attacked, if you remember. When Rogan started getting attacked, he was like, there's something to this that doesn't seem right. And then when he started speaking out, that's why I think he got quote unquote fired. I think ratings were low because people just don't want to deal with late night TV anymore. Like most people don't get their news from those channels as much. Like they see it more as entertainment than actual news. So I think that's why like a Kimmel or a Fallon.
I mean, he had his funny moments. I've seen some clips from him that were funny. He recently did one. I just saw a clip of he's talking about how everybody was bringing stuff to the Queen.
Yeah.
When she died and everyone's leaving stuff.
Yeah, talking to the mic more. You're probably too far away. Yeah.
And made a point of saying, it's just basically a garage sale now. Just bring your junk.
Just bring your junk. Yeah.
Everybody leaving these things out there. He goes, dolls and toys. But, so that was chuckle. But it's apolitical, if you will. Like he moved away from the...
Yeah. Well, Fallon's smart because Jimmy Fallon, remember, he used to be kind of a little more opinionated, but now it's all like a game show style interview. The ones that don't do well are the ones
because they were losing ratings.
Exactly.
Jimmy Kimmel, Fallon was losing ratings.
Kimmel's way down.
Yeah.
Because he gives his political opinion, not that people disagree or agree, or if we disagree or agree, but...
I'm going to challenge that because the one that usurped their time slot was Gutfeld. He's all political.
I hear that name a lot. I don't know who that is.
Gutfeld is on Fox News, and he's on an earlier show, The Five. And they gave him his own show. He used to do a comedy one at night that was late night, I believe, like after 12. And then they slotted him into the 11 o'clock to 12, I believe.
Oh, Greg Gutfeld. Oh, yeah, I know this guy.
Yeah, and he's totally political. He's just conservative political. And he's killing it. So it's not a question of being political. It seems to me that the ones that are getting very well. Now, it could be the more liberal audience that were watching Kimmel and Fallon are getting tired of it, of the same shtick all the time, and maybe Gutfeld's ratings will go down after a while.
It's more of a joke with like a Kimmel or like it's hard to take someone who's not a news anchor seriously, if that makes sense.
Oh, no, Gutfeld's very funny. Yeah, I mean, it's a comedy show.
But he's a news I know him as a news anchor, like someone who knows. Not an anchor.
He's a political pundit.
Yeah,
it's
more but let me ask you this: if you were to go for news, would you rather go for CNN or Kimmel? I'm probably going to go to CNN if I had to get news.
I would never go to CNN.
I know, but you know what I mean. If you had to pick between the two, which one would you say?
Kimmel's not a news person.
Exactly.
Neither one of them are news.
That's why you'd probably go. Well, wait, your guy is Gutfeld's news.
No, as I said, he's a political pundit. He doesn't sit and give you the news. They sit around and discuss, similar to what we're doing. They throw a topic out there, and they discuss it. And he has 4 guests on at night, and during the day, when he's on the 5, there's supposed to be one liberal person, the rest are basically conservatives for Fox News. Oh. But either way, the one he does at night is pure comedy, and they just mock people up, down, and sideways. But there's definitely a conservative slant to it. So that's why I find it interesting that it's not so much that they're weary of politics, it's that the ones that were more liberal, their ratings were going down. In other words, people were either tired of hearing the same shtick, or they didn't. That's when you put on Gutfeld, you know what you're going to get. When you would watch Jimmy Kimmel or Fallon when they first started out, it was purely entertainment with interviewing guests.
Right.
Then Fallon started doing all the little skits with the game shows and whatnot with the celebrity, which were good.
Yeah, really Fallon, good. I think, is still technically number 1. I'd have to check that, but I think he's like the number 1 of that category. I think Corman might be James Gordon. James.
He's done. He left. He went back to. I think he left his late show. Oh, dude. And went back to
James
the UK.
Corden, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these shows aren't doing that well anymore.
Colbert is the other one. Stephen Colbert.
Steve Colbert, yeah. He's pretty left. Right?
He's totally left,
yeah.
Yes.
And then Bill Maher, I see a lot now, because he's like a little more on the right side now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like he's come out conservative, and now I see him more often. Which kind of goes to tell you that
he'll challenge you in that. He's not more conservative. He's the same left. He's just not as left.
Yes, that's what I mean. Right? I'm sorry, I should have said it that way. Yeah, he realizes that far woke thing is a little too much.
Yeah. Oh no. He's come out and said that it's.
Sorry, Bill Maher, if you ever said this. I didn't mean all
it's right. Not that I'm more left. It's just
he's all right.
So far left, right? Yeah.
I saw him with those bullhorns. You remember that guy?
The guy that he was in the Capitol.
I was like, wow, he's got one of those. Yeah.
God.
But I mean, I think this is kind of good for Trevor Noah. I don't know what he does now. He probably just starts his own podcast, and then I'm sure people will watch it. I'm sure he's a guy that has pretty good opinions.
I'm trying to think if they've done something else with him. I don't know.
I'm sure he'll start a podcast. I bet you he'll be on Rogan one of these days, and then promote something. I'm sure he and Rogan would have a good conversation, I bet.
Yeah, I don't know if Rogan would have him on. I guess so. I just want to feel something on the dog because it felt like a tick. Hold on.
Uh-oh. Yeah, our dad's not here to watch Bo while we do the podcast, so.
Oh, I thought you could just edit that out. I didn't
know.
To...
Well, the less editing, the better. It's a pain.
Gotta look when we're done.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any interesting ones?
Well, my first one is a short one. It's about the Miami Dolphin quarterback.
That's exactly what I pulled up too. Yeah.
So he had his first bad hit, right? We know the story.
Well, let's premise this one for those who don't know. So, what's his name? Tua. He's the Dolphins quarterback.
Let's just call him Tua.
Yeah,
because we know
we'll call him Tua. Yeah. Tua. I'm not a big sports guy. Like I'll play sports, but I don't know these guys. So. For those of you that don't know, he's a quarterback who took not one but
Miami
two.
Dolphins.
Yeah, took not one but 2 pretty heavy hits in the span of 2 games, I believe. The first one, if you look, he's like staggering as he gets up, and then he can't really walk. And then they're like, probably a concussion, but let's let him play in the next game. And he gets tackled and thrown to the ground, and he is. I mean, fingers are like, oh my God.
Yeah, he definitely had an episode, we'll say. Not quite sure what it was, so he stretchered off the field, and you could see his hands seizing up. What I found interesting was, naturally, the Dolphins are getting a lot of crap for this because
Bobo, no.
Of
Come here.
having him play again. But The interesting part is the coaches and the general managers and the people involved are all saying, we did the protocol. He met every possible condition to pass the concussion protocol. It's the first one. Putting him in the second time, they're saying we followed the protocol. Now, I'm sure that's going to be investigated. I'm sure they're going to want to have some accountability. But I'm thinking, we know this happens. We know they have a protocol in place. We've experienced it when you kids played sports and potential concussion. I'm sure they're more serious about it in the NFL just because
Players Union.
Right, and they've had lawsuits and whatnot. So I'm going to err on the side of saying, let's say they did do the proper protocol. Let's say and as a player, a union member too, he has rights also and conditions, and he was there when they went through these protocols, and he would have known if he was not able to play. We don't know if pressure was put on him to play and he didn't want to. But I'm wondering, as an aside, maybe the protocols aren't that good.
Yeah. Well, so I've been kind of looking into this one quite a bit because I was curious. The first one, I would argue, probably was a concussion. Here's what I think happened. The first one, the other game.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
So the first one, I didn't see the actual hit, but him getting up, he stumbles 2 to 3 times, he's struggling to walk. So there's a difference between getting a concussion and actually having your equilibrium thrown off, and that can happen from just like getting the wind knocked out of you and your spine kind of realigns, and your head, of course you got a whiplash. But first thing that happens when you have your equilibrium thrown off is your eyes have to adjust to the ground. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is your brain has to figure out, like, where am I in relation to where you are? One thing that people don't talk about is when you have a helmet on, you're losing part of that perception. Right? So right then and there, it's going to take you a little longer to get your equilibrium back.
Right. And I don't think they're quick to take your helmet off just in case you have a neck or a head injury.
Well, the problem, and we talk about this in combat sports, the problem with helmets is that they're not actually better for you necessarily. Sometimes they are, but because the pressure has nowhere to go, if it isn't concussion, not equilibrium, it's actually doing more damage to your head. Now, I think the real question is, and not to, sorry for those of you that really love football, football's kind of a stupid sport when you think about it. You have guys running full clip who are 200, 300 pounds, 250, 300 pounds, running into you full force. Mm-hmm. And if you're a quarterback who's not ready for it because you just threw a ball, you're going to get, this is going to happen often, right? We don't even talk about the concussions that you get that they don't even talk about. Like, every time you get nailed, that's still... you can get a concussion from getting hit in the stomach. It doesn't have to necessarily be to the head.
It's the motion of the head that causes it, and the brain shifting inside the skull.
Here's my fix, buddy, because I know so much about sports.
Yes.
But this is my guess.
You just call football stupid.
I want to know if this is possible, but I think at least quarterbacks, who are the most vulnerable, right? The whole point is to defend the quarterback.
Right.
Right. I think there should be, for quarterbacks, a helmet that has a little more vision. Like, make the sides that end here go out with like a glass or something, like a plexiglass that is very hard to break.
Well, how's that supposed to help with concussions?
No, it gives you the visibility so you can brace. So if you know a guy's coming from your left, because now you have more peripheral vision, because you're going to get decked when you're getting
I guess you could do that. Anything would help, but you could get tackled from behind. You could get tackled down low. You could be running away from the guy coming at you.
That's true, but the peripheral vision, I think, helps you. There's nothing worse than getting blindsided, right? Yeah. So I think at least quarterbacks should have the cutouts so that they can see if they're about to get decked from the left or the right. Because, just for safety reasons. I don't know if that gives that much of an advantage that changes the game.
It's the nature of the sport. Because
again,
if
you're running in.
If you're going to play football, there's only so much padding that they want to wear too.
Yeah.
You can put them in a full bodysuit, but they don't feel like they can perform as well. Boxers, it's the nature of the sport. They're not wearing helmets and they're getting pounded too. Maybe not with the full force of a 300-pound guy. But, I wouldn't want to play. We were never keen on you guys playing football, and just for that reason, kids usually get injured. It's only a small percentage that go pro and all that stuff. And
a CTE is a little different. I know a lot of people bring up the CTE question, but when it comes to fighting, there's not as much CTE as there is in football, and they have helmets on.
Soccer is the number one sport for concussions. Which is how your brother got his, but
Kenny got his in a practice.
I know,
because he got tackled.
It was just playing soccer, and
Had nothing to do with the ball, though.
Well, your father was playing soccer, took it in the head and broke his nose, and I'm sure there was a concussion with that, but then we're nervous about the nose. Having said that, you have an uncle who plays football. I'm sure he's had his fair share, and cousins' fair share of concussions. But, years ago, when my family uncle played, nobody knew about concussions. Nobody dealt with that. A kid got up dizzy, you tell him, walk it off, go sit down. Right. What's interesting now for this Dolphin player, my understanding from the doctors was your third bad concussion, you could wind up a vegetable. And we remember hearing about a soccer player at a local high school who couldn't play anymore because he had his second. I think he had two, and then he did play, and then he had. Are you sure
you're talking? I think you're talking.
I don't know the person's name. No, don't. I wouldn't give names because I'm not sure. It wasn't somebody that we knew. I don't think it was that kid.
I thought you meant.
Foul boy.
Yeah. I thought that's you. I'll bleep that out.
Yeah, but there was somebody it wasn't him. It was, although I know he had a couple bad concussions. We've known kids to have that.
Yeah. Luckily, that's a big name.
You got to keep the room dark.
Yeah, we knew a kid that was a hockey player who got such a bad concussion. The doctor physically said, you're not allowed to think for 24 hours.
I know,
You have to be in a pitch dark room. Yeah. It was a really bad concussion.
And they tell you
he was probably
the second
8th grade at that time.
Yeah, he was young and he kept playing.
I don't know if it was Matt or Tim. It might have been Tim, but the older one. But he might have been in high school.
Well, either way, when you have two, they'll tell you. A third one, you risk mental deficiencies from it. And that's a scary thing.
Yeah, concussions are scary because they're pretty easy to get.
If you're playing football and you're a quarterback, get ready.
Well, one of my friends at the gym, one of the ladies that works at my gym, she got a concussion just from hitting her head on a weight, accidentally getting up, hitting her head on a barbell.
You can get in a car accident, when your head gets thrown back. It happens, but statistically, you may not be in 2 car accidents that throw your head where you have a third one.
Whereas the argument with this is Tua was technically in that game last week. In this game that just happened where his fingers cross. And now usually what that means when fingers cross and you lose motor function, that's like permanent nerve damage.
Yeah, so the question will be, will he come back?
And he will. I don't know. I bet he will. He shouldn't, but he probably will. You can't risk a third.
But, when you know that, and that'd be a testament to him, either that he's crazy, and I'm not sure that's a very good example for a lot of young people to do that, but how do you play knowing next time you get sacked, you may never be able to eat without help.
There's a caveat to that, though. So when it's 2 major concussions in a short time is when you have issues. So a major concussion...
In 4 days.
Yeah. So he's 2 in 4 days, which is terrible. But, let's say I had one in high school, and then I had another one, in college, and then now I have one. It wouldn't matter, because it's not... Even though I have had the 3 major, it's enough time that it's healed. So I don't know the healing time, but it's more if you have 3 concussions... one after another within a year, you're probably going to die. That's probably how.
Or you're going to have really serious mental health issues.
CTE.
Which is
look at Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was really bad towards the end of his life.
Right, but he made it through a whole career in boxing. This guy is still young and still a very good player. How do you get back on that field knowing... As crazy as it is, this is a professional business. Now they all want to tackle him and take him out of the game completely. Terrible thing to say, but that's...
completely. Well, when millions of dollars on the line, and that's your sport.
And that's a strong team.
You're not going to go easy on their quarterback.
That's right.
So,
sweep the leg.
Or go down, right?
But I'm saying that mentality of that was his weakness, sweep the leg, because the guy knew that was his weakness. That's how you win. And, we all like to think that everybody is so moral and so ethical in these businesses, but that's the nature of the game.
My guess is they probably cleared him for they said that the second one was probably concussion, even though they cleared him. And then the first one, they probably said, he just got his equilibrium knocked. So if he did pass all the tests that he didn't have a concussion, this would count as his 1 major concussion, if they didn't clear him.
Oh, yeah,
I still think they're talking about it.
Not sure they talked about that first one. I don't know if that was definitely concussion or not.
Right, they say it could have been. So that's why they said...
Well, he went through the protocol, and he was okay to play 4 days later.
Yeah.
I would assume then... I don't know, in the NFL and Major League, is that acceptable? If you have a concussion 4 days later, if you pass the protocol, you can play. I know it's not something you can do in the high school level.
Yeah.
It's usually 2 weeks before you could play again.
Yeah, and that's for a minor concussion. That's not a major concussion.
Right.
Minor concussions, you take it's like a shit test that you could easily cheat on.
Well, now they do the base. Well, now they've been doing a baseline where everybody has to. I don't know if you did that. But
I had to take a concussion test. Yeah.
A baseline one.
I don't remember
before the start of the season.
Yeah.
I know Ken had to. I'm not sure.
I know Kenny had to take one after.
And Mike did too. So I think they're. No. When you start the season, you take a baseline test.
Oh.
It's like a computer-based program. That's what I don't know if you did that.
I know I did. I took something, but for some reason I think I was asked if I had a concussion. They were like, just take the test to make sure. Oh. I passed it.
Well.
I was like, these questions are kind of hard.
No, what they do is they do.
What do you mean, blue or red?
They had a baseline.
I'm colorblind?
That you took with no concussion. And then if you had a concussion, you couldn't go back and play till you took the test again and you were within comparable lines. Yeah, so that's why I think that's probably why you took it. So maybe you did have the baseline one. I assume they do that in professional sports too, but that's what I'm interested to see.
I have to believe that their tests are more in depth when you have doctors.
Oh, I gotta believe it. Yeah, but
there's probably a full cranial nerve exam every time.
Well, I would assume that the union wants that, but I'm wondering if the players want that. Because they could tell him you can't play anymore.
Yeah, they could, but also like I think when you're. I think there's, I don't want to say an incentive, but I mean, obviously, most of them are under contract, so whether they play or not, they're going to make the money anyway. I think it's whether you love football or not, but I don't think this is a situation where it's like you could potentially never play again. I think this is more like you might have to sit out for the season. I don't think there was ever a question of you might never play again.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because it's just a concussion. If it was like an ACL injury, but again,
we don't know if this is the first concussion or the second.
That's true.
Span, and that's something that the family would have to say. Is it worth you possibly becoming a vegetable? One more game and you get one more hit, and this time you may not need a hard hit. It might be just a small amount to cause some serious problems.
His second one didn't look like that hard of a...
It was kind of a throwdown.
It was a throwdown, and he did land flat on his back, which...
Yeah, I think the head snap back. That's I didn't see it in real time, but it was...
But again, we're talking football here. Like, this is like that's the nature of the sport. Yeah,
that's right. And they're getting bigger, and they're getting stronger and they try to make special helmets, and it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's a scary one. But all right, you have another one because you literally took one of my four. So
next one, we're back to the electric vehicles.
Oh, okay.
This is another short one. I just thought this kind of interesting. Electric vehicles and the evacuation of Florida. Okay, so if you were somewhere deep into Florida.
So at this point, just so you guys know, Ian happened already.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, right.
Ian
the hurricane down in Florida. This on Wednesday, it hit southern Florida, southwest, and came all the way up. A lot of damage. So billions of dollars worth of damage. And some areas are completely destroyed. Good chunk of it. But they were musing, this writer was musing about electric vehicles. Again, only 1% of the people have them. Thank God. Can you imagine? They can go about 100 to 250 miles. So say you loaded up your car, and they're saying if you have the weight of a lot of stuff in the car too, and like you start evacuating, you're not getting out of Florida. And when you charge
that's a good point.
You're going to wait online to charge that car for hours with a line out, not only blocking the roads of other people to get out of the state, right, but delaying other people to get out. Another point of, creating traffic jams. Are we really thinking this through here?
Yeah.
In terms of these electric vehicles, do they make sense?
That's a really good point. I never thought of that. Yeah, of course. So you wouldn't be able to get out. You'd have to stop and charge, which let's assume that there were plenty of chargers all over. It still takes a long time to charge. If you really wanted to, like if you're trying to go green or whatever, I think those hybrids are probably the best idea.
Yeah,
electric
the
vehicles
make
don't really make sense when it comes down to it.
They are a potential disaster that hopefully people are realizing before we go down that road.
Yeah, because you're still wasting fossil fuels to charge that car anyway. Like the idea of an electric car is kind of BS when you really break down.
Yeah, there's nothing green about them, and we just don't have the infrastructure for it. But even in a perfect scenario, everybody has an electric car. You can't get out. You can't go in a situation like that. The way it's designed, it's only going to go 200, 250 miles. That's not going to get you through the whole state for you to evacuate. which sounds fine, but you're going to have to start a week in advance to get out and hope you have that much warning when you're inching your way across wherever, several states, if you kept going north past the Carolinas. Yeah. So I just thought that was another,
I think an electric car is good for, like, point A to point B, but I think if you are going to have an electric car, you need to have a gas-powered car as well. Like, you can't just survive on just an electric if you want to go the electric route.
Well, in California, they're banning all gas-powered cars. You won't have a choice. So how do you get from one end of the state?
Has California made a good decision in the last, 10 years? Oh my gosh. Let's be honest.
That state is just unbelievable. Yeah. But, if they have their fires and you're stuck on a mountain and you got to get out, hopefully you can get away 100 to 250 miles in your electric car. If not, you're going to be stuck in a forest fire, right?
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Somebody's got to get you out. So I just thought that was, things you never think about when everybody's like, go green, go green.
Yeah.
Okay, when you have a crisis like this, people need to pause and say, what if somebody just had an electric car? How do they get out? And it's a small, maybe one person. What do you do if it's 1 million people with electric cars? How do you get them out?
Yeah.
That's your goal.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, yeah, you're completely right. I just never thought of it like that. Of course, I mean, again, electric vehicles are kind of BS to begin with. Yeah, they're efficient and whatever, but if you're going to get an electric car because you think you're helping the environment, it's really not doing anything. So.
Well, I was saying, Dad, that electric car, not bad to have as an alternative, right? I wouldn't mind mixing it into the fleet. We call our cars the fleet.
The fleet,
we wouldn't mind mixing it into the fleet. But
all 27 of our cars. So.
But they're very expensive to obtain.
The Aston Martin up there,
right?
I
so why mix that into a fleet? You would add that with. Normally, you say, well, let me get the economical, cheap car and add that for when I got to commute or do something, which we don't really commute anymore. But a long distance, say, upstate New York. It's very expensive to get that car. The battery, the car itself, electric cars are very expensive to purchase. And as we know, when that battery goes, right?
Yeah.
Plus, you got to make sure you charge it, which it wouldn't be a primary car, so you charge it at night.
Yeah.
Our electric bill will be through the roof, which we know that. Okay. Just to drive an electric car and never have to.
It pretty much evens out. We did the math recently for one of our companies. It kind of evens out to how much you would pay in gas anyway, just in electric. It's roughly like within a couple $100. Right. So,
as I said, the only scenario that I think it would be good is for somebody, say, your grandparents, so they don't have to go, especially grandmother, she's elderly, go to a gas station. Yeah, because...
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, if it's your point A to point B car and you're charging it, you don't have to charge it every night, and you charge it, like, once a week or
right,
however.
And they don't drive very far, and they only use their car once in a while. There is some full service in the state that she lives in, so she would never have to get out, but she's cheap and she doesn't want to pay for it.
Gee, Ma.
Yeah, so she gets out, she puts the glove on, she looks like a surgeon, it's a surgeon to get the gas. But,
does she really?
See that? Yeah, you just get the glove in the car. Oh, she doesn't touch it.
Oh, that's right. In New York, you have to pump your own gas.
The COVID, Chris.
The COVID, yeah. Graham.
In some places, you have to do it yourself.
The only one, have you seen the electric Hummer, though? The electric Hummer, let me tell you something, that thing is sick.
Yeah.
But the Hummer's like, you kind of need that to be electric because on gas it only gets like 8 miles to the gallon.
They've always been pigs.
So I think it starts at like 120, like 120,000.
Yeah.
And it sounds expensive, but when you think of how much you were probably paying in gas for the original, I mean, it's...
How much is that battery, though, to support that car if you have to replace it? If the average is like $13,000 to put in a battery.
I couldn't tell you. But... let me tell you, it's sweet. Like you and I could sit next to each other in that like driver's passenger, and I couldn't touch you. Like,
they've always been that way.
I know, I love it.
Those Hummers have the huge.
And the console comes around, so I feel like I'm in a spaceship.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But you look at them and you think,
won't fit in your garage though.
On the road.
Won't fit in your garage. Yeah.
Let alone the road. You're taking up the whole. I think it's supposed to be a standard size, but you must be really.
Yeah, I mean,
hanging over those yellow lines.
Oh yeah. Like, I was going down the roads before because we got Chinese food tonight. And I was going through the back way by Meadow.
Yeah.
A truck, like a FedEx truck sort of, came by. And I was like, I'm in our Toyota. Yeah. And that Toyota's massive.
Truck,
I was like, are we both going to fit on this road?
No.
I didn't
and
think
they don't
so.
care because they don't own those
braked.
trucks.
I was like, go. Yeah, they're like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I don't care.
You pay for this shit.
Yeah, right.
I don't care if you get a concussion for this whiplash that I'm about to give you.
Yeah, that's a tiny road back there. You got to be careful.
So, yeah, the Hummer, I mean, it has to take up that whole road. It has to. It's got to be the widest.
Well, I think to be street legal, you have to be able to fit in a standard size lane.
Yeah, I mean,
so
that
it must,
sense.
but it's got to be tight on those. in that lane because those things are just like giant boxes on wheels.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
But hey, I think that could take a semi truck and be fine. That it's built like it's literally a tank. I mean, it's a former military vehicle. But I just remember Uncle Bill used to have one, and remember he had a yellow one. And I just remember I felt like we went down one road and it was like we need gas.
Yeah.
And it was such a big. I don't remember where we were going, but I just remember how spacious it was. I was like, this is really nice. I had to be like 8.
Remember Larry Lang's line about his fast sports car? The only thing you can't pass is a gas station.
That's a good line. Larry Lang.
Shout out to Larry Lang and Amy Lang.
Yeah. Do you have another one?
I do. I have 2 more. One is about the GTA 6.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. So, hacker update.
How?
He was a 17-year-old. His initials are AK from Oxford, China.
We talked about this last week for those of you that didn't listen.
So, it was the attack on Rockstar and Uber. He was arrested earlier in the year also for hacking Microsoft and NVIDIA. Did you know that?
Wow, really?
Yeah. He's rumored to be with the Lapsus hacking group. $.
I don't know much about hacker groups.
So he's not just like a rogue young kid in a basement. This might be
He's actually a kid that's... Oh, wow.
So he's been charged with 2 computer crimes and 2 counts of violating bail. Probably from the earlier ones. They probably made specific rules like, hey, don't hack anybody for a while. Yeah. Rockstar says that they are... still working on GTA 6, and they will continue. So they're not going to change anything based on this hack. When we were saying what they might do, will they scrap it?
Yeah.
They're going to keep going with it.
They're going to have to, I mean, either way, I knew they weren't going to scrap it, but either way, we're going to have to wait longer now because they're going to have to change source code for cheating and all that stuff.
They didn't go into that in the article.
Yeah.
They just made it sound like we're not going to scrap it and start from scratch.
You can't. I mean, GTA 5, so the last one, is the most expensive video game ever made. It cost them over $100 million to make that game. So I can't imagine what GTA... Yeah, they made that money back. I can't imagine what GTA 6 is going to cost.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
So to scrap hundreds of millions of dollars potentially, it does make sense. So Rockstar's worth is nuts. So I don't think it hurts them that much. But at the same time, let me see real fast. Rockstar, what's it? Market cap more. Yeah, 18 billion. So they're fine. But you know what I mean. Like it's not going to affect them, but you don't want to scrap $100 million.
Yeah, that over the if they can.
If anything, all they've lost is time. Time is really the problem, and I don't know if people want to wait more years, especially when we've waited almost 10. So
yeah, you got to get those games out. I'm sure there's a.
Do you remember Cyberpunk?
Yeah, you mentioned
Cyberpunk came out 2 years ago. I was going to do this as an article, but I thought it wasn't. Kind of flows into what we're talking about, but Cyberpunk was a game that got released 2 years ago, and it wasn't ready, and it was supposed to be like the greatest game of all time. They're the ones that made The Witcher. They made the game
I think I've heard you talk about this online to people like it.
Yeah, was... and it what happened was all the investors and all the people that gave money to the company, they said we want the game released now, and it wasn't ready. Yeah, and that's like businessmen who don't understand how video games work, so they see a demo and they go, "It looks good, throw it out." Yeah. So last week last week, they made a resurgence. They basically like re-put out the game with all the bug fixes after 2 years. Mm-hmm. Now it's like the most played game right now. That and it's kind of we've never had a game.
It and they made it better.
Yeah, they made it better after 2 years, and now it's like one of the top played games on the Steam Deck. Oh, so I don't think we've ever had a game that had that kind of resurgence. Oh. They shattered all their numbers.
Have you noticed a difference when you play it?
I haven't played it since. I haven't played it since release, but then I'm just looking at the numbers and. It's insane the comeback that they made. It's like the number 1 or 2 top game right now. So
good for them.
Yeah, I didn't think they could do it. I thought they would just eat it and then go on to the next one. Yeah, I know that they're talking about a Witcher DLC, so that's another weird one. They're a great company, and I knew that they would make a comeback. But The Witcher 3 came out like 2016 probably, and to make DLC almost 5 years later is kind of weird. You don't really see that. So, usually games have a 2-year lifespan.
Okay, I'll put it in context. How does Witcher 3 play into the series Witcher?
So that's prequel. So
gotcha. Okay.
For me, I'm 3 whole games ahead of the story, from what you know.
From the TV show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it tie in like the show's the first one?
So
they're gonna do a second show.
They're based off books, right? They're originally books.
Right. That became games.
Yes.
That's
so
now a series.
The games actually made the book more popular, and then they I think they only made like the first 2 books, and then they made the third one, and then the book came out after, based on the third game.
Right.
Don't quote me on that, though. I haven't done the research that much. But I believe that the show that Henry Cavill's in, who we talk about at least on half of our streams, our podcast now, I believe that starts before he gets to the Castle of Witchers. I don't know if that's a spoiler for you, but yeah. So have you met? What's the?
I have to rewatch that show every time.
It's a wild show.
Because I completely forget what happened.
I have to look
2 years ago when the first one.
Yennefer is, I believe.
Yennefer, that's right.
Yennefer is the first, like
the witch lady. She's the
So once you get to the,
weird witch.
I forget what the name of the castle is. I'm not one of those people. There are people that are into video games that like know all the lore and stuff. I'm not one of those people. I just play the games and know the basis of the story. But The Witcher, I mean, that's one of those shows that they can do 19 seasons on because there's so much to it.
Oh yeah. It's
like a Lord of the Rings.
You just keep going and going and going, but it's expensive, to do those kind of shows.
And luckily their acting budget isn't that big in comparison to what Henry Cavill is probably worth to do one episode.
Yeah, they have a lot of
I don't want to say no-name actors, but like D-list versus the 1A list.
Well, they're more well-known in, say, the UK, which I think is where they make the productions.
Right. Like, if Henry Cavill wasn't The Witcher, it probably wouldn't be that big. Is that fair to say? Well, it probably wouldn't be as popular.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Probably not a wider audience who knows him from Superman and other shows, but... the gaming community, they don't care if it's him or somebody else if they're really into Witcher.
But remember, it's not based on the games. So, in that
true.
reality, if it was based on the game, then I bet you people would watch. But
regardless of who the lead was, because they'd be just
but Henry Cavill is The Witcher. You gotta. As Geralt? Come on.
No, he's The Witcher. Now that's how we know him.
Yeah.
That's going to be one of those, they're going to bring a new guy in. Everyone's going to be like, no, you
can't
do it.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah, I don't think you could.
Yeah.
Same with Superman. I don't know if you can have another Superman.
But they can do it with 007. James Bond.
Yeah, but they've done it so many times that it's kind of it makes sense. But Daniel Craig to me is the James Bond. But I know you would say probably like.
Well,
I'm
of the Sean Connery that age group.
Yeah, for me, I can't imagine it being anyone. Just because Daniel Craig kind of looks a lot like Papa, so I'm like, with the eyes.
Craig. Oh, I never thought of that.
Oh yeah, they have like the same eyes.
Oh. But yeah, they're talking now about somebody. Henry Cavill again is possible. 007. There's a few people that are in the running.
Yeah. I think I thought Idris Elba was. Yeah.
I thought so too, but it doesn't sound like he wants to do it. I don't know.
I don't blame him. I mean,
and they was trying to do a woman, and even Daniel Craig said no, right?
Did you see?
Was it Daniel Craig?
I think so.
He said it can't be 007. It could be another agent, but no. I mean, somebody had commented it might have been Daniel Craig, but don't quote me on that. Maybe it was Pierce Brosnan because he had been 007 also. When they were talking about making 007 a woman, an actress.
Ugh.
Right. Even he said, nothing against that, but. Why? Make it 006.
Yeah, you can't have Spider-Man be a woman and not call it Spider-Woman.
Well, they tried doing that and it never worked.
Hey, Petrus Parker.
They did that with Captain America. They tried making a woman, right? They every now and then they try She-Hulk, and it just doesn't.
She-Hulk's not very good.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It just doesn't work.
And what's interesting is those are canon. Like there is a She-Hulk that's in the Marvel universe. It's not like they made it up.
Right.
So I actually don't know why that did so poorly. But I bet you it's because I've never seen it, but it's like I saw a thing where it's like, oh, She-Hulk's twerking or something like that. It's like She-Hulk's twerking.
Yeah,
it's
like woke stuff.
I'm here for superheroes. I don't want to see her be an attorney or whatever the show's.
That's what they do. They throw so much social justice stuff in there that, is this really about the character or a good show, or is it just for you to get some sort of message out that that's not what people are there to see with that?
Everyone is excited for Deadpool 3 with Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine.
Your brother texted me.
That's another one. I can't imagine anyone else being Wolverine.
Sick as a dog, your brother managed
to,
from his bed, tap out that Hugh Jackman's coming back.
Yeah, I can't imagine anyone else being Wolverine. But I'm gonna get some. Yeah. Michael has pink eye, so
hopefully he's over it.
I'm gonna get some heat for this, but I can see other people playing Deadpool. But that might be because I haven't seen Deadpool in a while. Like Ryan Reynolds can be I wish Ryan Reynolds was one superhero, if that makes sense. And Deadpool to me isn't really the superhero for him. I think he could do.
He's been Green Lantern, right?
He was a Green Lantern. That movie apparently didn't do well. I thought it was good when I was a kid, but now if I watch it now,
I don't think I ever saw it.
He should be the Flash. I could see him as the Flash. Now that.
Well, I'm not keen on mixing people. I don't like that.
I want him to be the Flash, and that's it.
Well, but now it's too late for that. He's a great Deadpool. He is made for Deadpool.
It's been a long time since I've seen the first one, so I never saw the second one. I take back what I said. Don't give me hate.
I wasn't crazy. I didn't like the story behind the second one. I didn't think it was as good as the first one, but it was still a good movie. The second one, it's that character of Deadpool. The writing was really good.
Yeah,
I thought for him, it's kind of written.
Same with Iron Man can't be changed. I mean, once Robert Downey Jr. is done, I don't know what you do.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where these people kind of age out.
If you said to me before I saw him as Iron Man that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be a superhero, I'd be like, I don't see it. That's not his character.
That's like, can you imagine anyone else but Chris Hemsworth being Thor?
Well, no, there is no one else.
Yeah, there's no one else, right? Name another celebrity that could be. Maybe he passes it down to his brother, but
I can't think of anybody that's. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a specific character. That's true.
Yeah, with the long hair. I mean, he looks like a Norse god, right?
Right. Yeah, and you can't even think of anybody that. Maybe Jason Momoa, but now he's Aquaman.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You can't mix them. I don't know what you would do. But it's kind of sad because we are getting to the point where these people are kind of aging out of that role.
Some of them, yeah.
To a certain extent. Or they just don't want to do it anymore, like Robert Downey Jr. Right? He was on Rogan once and he said, they can offer me $1 billion. I don't think I want to do Iron Man anymore.
He's an actor. I mean, Downey Jr., before he went into his drug-crazed haze, when he first came out, his very first well-known role was just Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
He had such great reviews for that. And he was really I saw him in a movie, a really dark movie, Less Than Zero. That was, I'll say the 80s or 90s. He was still young. And he was very good in it. But, he's great. He can play a lot of different characters.
Well, that's the difference between an A-list celebrity and a B-list celebrity.
Although I just saw Dr. Dolittle on cable.
Oh, that's his, yeah.
He was
it's a remake, though. Let's be honest.
Well, it's a remake, but he was very weird in it.
Holmes?
It looked like they were...
Sherlock Holmes? He was phenomenal in that.
Yes, he's very good at Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, he can do everything.
With Jude Law. Jude Law was in that. But yeah, he just is one of those actors that's why when he was Iron Man, I'm like, I don't see it. And yet now you think,
now I can't.
Who else could be Iron Man?
But what's the guy that plays Captain America? Chris
Evans.
Chris Evans. Yeah, I can't. I've seen him in some other stuff, but it's not as good as his. To me, he's like only Captain America. I can't see him in really anything.
Well, I saw him in Knives Out, which just came out. It was a mystery. He plays I won't say because I don't want to give it away if anyone hasn't seen it, but he was good in it. But there's an ensemble. It's an ensemble cast. Daniel Craig was in it too.
Oh, okay.
The new It girl, Anna Darmas, I think she is. She's playing Marilyn Monroe. She was in it, so he was very good in that. Oh. And you didn't think like, he can only be Captain America. Oh, and they tried putting that woman in, right, as Captain America. Remember they tried.
Captain Marvel, right? Captain.
Was it Marvel? I thought she was Captain America. They tried a female
Captain
America.
Oh, that's right. They did it.
Was it Brie Larson or something? It was terrible. Like, they keep doing that.
I don't know why. Yeah, it's.
They got to push it.
Idiots.
Yeah, they got to push it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen a Marvel movie.
But... And it only bothers me because there's plenty of female.
Gal Gadot kills it as Wonder Woman.
Yeah, Jennifer Garner was Elektra. Remember with Daredevil?
Yeah.
You could build a whole story around that, especially now since the audiences really want more female. Or they feel that there's greater female audience to bring more female. There's plenty of them.
Well, there's a lot of upcoming Marvel movies. Right? They do Marvel because it's so big. They plan out all their movies till like 2026 or whatever. And they haven't done the casting for them. I'm sure they have ideas, but I bet you will have some good female ones within the next 3 years.
Probably.
I don't know who's going to
Zendaya's got to get in something.
Yeah, Zendaya.
Zendaya, sorry.
But I think she's kind of... Here's the problem with that. She's known as...
The Spider-Man.
Yeah, you can't give her... She could become like a Spider-Woman. I don't know the Spider-Man origin story very well. I haven't read through those comics, Mom.
Yeah, they'll make a Spider-Man woman if there's a market for it.
Yeah, I don't know if it can be Zendaya canonically.
Again, I'm not keen on that. You're right. I like when people just stay in their lane.
Yeah, okay. You can't come up with... whatever. What's the name of Peter Parker's girlfriend in the movie?
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mary Jane ever becomes Spider-Woman in the comics. I don't know how that story works out.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
there's no Spider-Girl.
There's Spider-Girl.
Is there Spider-Girl?
Yeah, I just don't know who it is. There's Spider-Girl. There's also the interdimensional Spider-Girl, who's like the original.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man's actually not the original mother. There's actually like I think there's like a Black Widow or something like that. That's like
well, Scarlett Johansson
not
was
that
a Black woman.
Black Widow. Now I have to find it. It's like she's like this super special. God, I don't even know what to look up. But it's like this. It's a spider lady who's like in between dimensions, and she's like the one that made like the spider radioactive that bit Peter Parker. Well, the comics are wild.
Yeah, Dad had on Doctor Strange. I guess that was on cable last night, and I came in the middle of it. I had no idea what was going on. I'm watching this. This is all like magic, magic universe.
I think there's better people than Benedict Cumberbatch for. Sorry,
well, but that's one of those. I'm sure it has. He was good in the Spider-Man one with Tom Holland, the most recent Spider-Man. And I didn't even know the backstory for Doctor Strange, so I kind of figured there was something weird about it. But, now you're getting into a whole other realm. He's not the exciting kind of...
Well, that's why I think DC... I talk about this all the time. We've been talking about this because I've been going through the Batman games. The DC universe is way more interesting than the Marvel universe. And yet Marvel does so well. Ben Affleck being Batman is okay, but like when you go into the different forms of Batman, like the Bat Who Laughs that's what we should be having movies on.
Right.
Do I have to tell you the Bat Who Laughs, Mom?
No.
Okay, Mom, since you asked. Most powerful
bat.
Batman, no big deal. I mean, kills gods.
Laughing Bat?
Yeah, it's basically the Joker wins. Joker dies, Batman becomes part Joker, right? Joker has like that gas that makes people laugh. Yeah. He becomes known as the Bat That Laughs. And he like kills the entire Bat family. He kills the Justice League to the point where he becomes a god. It's wild. It's wild.
Well, isn't the reality too? Well, I guess it's true of others, not just him. But Batman has no superpower.
Yeah, he's
other than
orphan.
He's rich. No, other than he's rich. Right? Isn't that what Ben Affleck says? What's your superpower? So, I got a lot of money.
Well, the Bat Who Laughs loses his vision. Right? This is the Bat Who Laughs. It's just, like this would be such a great picture that in a movie. That's the Bat Who Laughs. Whew, that'd be sick. Becomes a god, kills Wonder Woman. It's amazing.
Don't show Mike. He'll want to be there for Halloween, and I can't put that costume together.
Yeah. So the Bat Who Laughs. That's what I mean. DC has potential to make amazing movies, but they just stick to Batman.
Yeah.
And that's the one that has the multiverse. So there's like Batman. There's the Batman where Bruce dies, Thomas Wayne becomes Batman, and the mother becomes the Joker because Bruce dies. We talked about that.
That's right. We have talked about that?
Yeah, we talked about that. Remember Mike and I were going on our nerd rant?
Oh, right. I thought you meant on the podcast. One of those, right?
So, you have one more, right?
I have one more. California school with the Social Justice Academy just came out. They have a 19% math proficiency. 19%.
I don't know if that's good or not.
No, it's terrible.
This
is in San Leandro High School. So they have 10th, 11th, and 12th grade program. You need to apply, but it's a public school. Sometimes you have public schools, but you have to be at a certain level to get in, okay? They offer there, it's just like a bucket in the article of social justice programs. Everything you could think of, they're giving these kids while they're there. All sounds good. Oh, and then senior year, you have to become an actual activist. You have to go out and actually be involved in one of these baskets of multiple things. But what's interesting is, and again, it's a public school. Taxpayers are paying for this, and it's California. 19% math proficiency, 21% science. California's average is 30%.
Wow.
So you're trying to get into a school that's going to teach you less in terms of what's required.
Yeah.
Okay? They're at a 50% reading level. 92% of these students are minorities. 57% of them are economically disadvantaged. Okay?
What percent of that?
57%. So almost half the school are poor students or the families don't have much money. They get into this school. I don't know what standard they're using to get them into the school. If once they get there, they're basically dumbed down in math and science and English or reading, unless they're more proficient and they just go, status quo. But when you look at the basket of things that they offer, if you're pro it, whatever, I half the stuff I don't think they're going to use in life. But if you want your child to have that, that's what you call extracurricular activities, like clubs and whatnot, gender club and self-identity.
Right, you don't make it a class.
It shouldn't be the curriculum.
Right.
When you're looking at such dismal, and I'm saying dismal scores, how is that going to help 92% of the kids being minorities, let alone 100% of the kids? You're giving them skills to do what? I mean, many of them, they said, like 92% graduate and go on to college.
Well,
how scary is that?
Here's the question. We could talk statistics, but what do you have to do to fix that? Is that like a shut down the school, break it up, and start new schools with better teachers? Because I don't think just changing curriculum there is going to make a difference. Well, you see what I'm saying? Like, what is the answer?
If the answer is you get rid of the woke stuff, and you make that after hours, and go back to the core stuff.
Oh, so they don't even have the core stuff. It's just the social...
No, they do, but this is how poorly they're doing in it. So they're not spending a lot of time on it. Chris, it's like 20 other things that these kids are involved in.
Oh, okay.
And we go back to that comment like we said before. They never had time to do the basics before. Now, all of a sudden, they're introducing all these new curriculums, queer identity, and, gender-based
right.
stuff.
In public school, you get to pick a little more of what you take,
But
right?
they barely had time to do the basics before COVID, right? Before lockdown, right?
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, they're putting in all this other stuff. Scores are going down, or they're not improving because kids lost a year and a half for COVID, right? So right there, they were behind it with the basics.
Well, I guess what they would be getting into college is because they're taking classes that boosts their GPA, but they're not learning anything, and then the colleges see that GPA and they go, "Oh, this must be like not going through the classes." That would be my guess.
Or they're going to all colleges out in California where all they're looking is, I don't care that you can't read, but you were involved in gender equity. Oh, that's great. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Again, what are you preparing these kids for in life? And these are economically disadvantaged and minority students. So project
No, don't do it.
We're almost done. Project 5 or 10 years into the future. All these parents are going to be complaining that their kids didn't get a job and they couldn't find work and blah, 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 blah. Why do you think that is?
I apologize, guys. We have a needy dog.
No, it's time for him soon.
Is it?
Well, he's been sitting for a while.
It still has an hour, half an hour.
He's dad to come in.
Yeah.
Come home.
So we were just talking about the social justice thing before my mom had to grow up. Do you remember that teacher a couple weeks ago? You showed me a picture. She had the ginormous...
Yes.
So, do you know, there's more to that story.
Could be a hoax.
It is. So that guy used to be a male who was, I don't want to say attacked, but he was told by the teaching community that he was too much of a toxic masculinity, like teaching toxic masculinity. And he said, okay, that's fine. Went the opposite way to be that thing that we saw.
Yes.
And now they can't fire him. Apparently, he's like one of the best teachers in the school. The kids love him. So it's completely a hoax in the sense of...
When I first saw that, I thought it was a hoax because it was so ridiculous. Yeah. And no matter what, even when people say, well, no, it could be legitimate. Who cares? It was ridiculous. No matter what, it was ridiculous.
They can't fire him either. So he won. He won, right? All the kids love him because they understand what he's doing.
Well, he was trying to make a point.
Yeah.
Okay? But he made his point. Now it's borderline ridiculous. Like, by making his point, he's reinforcing what's not good about it. It's like two wrongs don't make a right. And I understand what he's trying to do, but he should let it go. In my opinion, I think he took it too far.
He should, but also at the same time, it kind of wakes the teachers' unions up, like that, the board of whatever, because it's a public school. And he's known, everyone loves his class, so they can't fire him.
Right.
He's got all positive remarks from students when they do the student how'd I do thing.
Right.
So this is an interesting one because it's a test, right? It's a test to pushing the limits and seeing what you can and can't get away with. And then now they're starting to realize, like that, the board is realizing, oh, I see where this gets out of hand. It's kind of the wake-up call to them.
Well, right. And I get it. But, it's almost like it was so ridiculous that, yes, it was a win-win, but it was also a lose-lose. He's either mocking the other individuals, right? Mm-hmm. Which I don't really care, but that's how it's being seen.
Right.
Or he's,
Well, there's no one there.
In his own way, taking his position too far.
The only ones I have besides, I mean, now we can start getting into more of the video game stuff. So, this is just like a broad article. It's Dr. Disrespect. Shocked hackers may have attended the COD Next event. So we talked about this event. This was the one that Modern Warfare 2 had all the big streamers come. And I was like, why wasn't I invited?
Remember that.
With this is kind of the broad idea of the beta for Modern Warfare just ended. So all the people that pre-ordered it, it's riddled with cheaters, which we knew was going to happen. But the problem with this is when it comes to cheating, this is always going to happen. There's two forms of cheating in video games, and this is why people have asked me to talk about this. There's something called injected cheats, and there's just regular cheats. Cheats that are regular are the ones you pay like $5 for or whatever. And what that does is it basically changes the code of the game so that basically it's a third-party software that allows certain things to change the code of the game, right? Okay. So it's very easy for Activision to go, oh, hey, you're cheating, we're going to ban your account. Now, injected cheats are very different. Those are expensive. That actually changes the source code of the game, kind of like what we were talking about with GTA. Okay. This is why you don't want that source code being leaked. Because it's part of the game, it's much harder to register. So they probably won't get banned easily unless someone's actually watching them play. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason that we bring this up is because one of the videos that I had go semi-viral, I guess you can say, is the one where there's a female streamer named Nadia who is accused of cheating. I did the review. I don't think she's cheating. I think she does get into lobbies that are a lot easier than what she's a very good player who's playing in lobbies where these kids are like first time playing the game or something. Don't know how it works. But, I mean, we can sit here and make accusations. I don't think she's cheating. But I know that there are cheaters in the game. And I think what's going to end up happening is Warzone 2 when it comes out and Modern Warfare when it comes out next month. It's going to be a downward spiral for like the first 3 months, like the first Warzone. And what's going to end up happening is everyone's going to go to Apex or some other games and then come back to it when all the cheating happens. The real issue is Activision has to start doing these bans on accounts. So you have something that Blizzard did. There used to be a game called Overwatch. And what Blizzard would do is if you got caught cheating, you would get what's called a hardware ban. So every computer has an IP address.
Yes.
If your IP address is playing that game, you cannot play.
Oh.
So if I'd have to build a whole new computer to play that game if I wanted to. You can't just change accounts and make a new account. That's what it should be, in my opinion. If you get caught cheating, you should have a hardware ban.
Do they have disclaimers and things when you load a game that
you
will not?
You have TOS,
okay.
Terms of Services.
How could they legally do that? Okay.
So Blizzard had that, and now they don't for some reason, and now the games are riddled with hackers. I think it's more of an Activision thing rather than a Blizzard thing, honestly. What was I saying? So cheating's always going to be a thing. I just think that the slap on the wrist, like, oh, please don't do that, is not the answer, especially if you're trying to get... And Call of Duty is known for cheaters. That's the problem. Oh. So this sucks. But Zia asked a question before, which was... Hold on, let me pull it up. He asked it earlier this week. European Union has started its investigation of Microsoft's acquisition of Blizzard. Now, I kind of explained this in the Discord because I thought he was kidding. I wasn't sure if he just genuinely didn't know why. No offense, Zia. I just wasn't sure if you were kidding. But, so Activision had Activision and Blizzard had a lot of sexual assault allegations within the company, like sexual harassment, a lot of lawsuits. Now, the reason that there's an investigation is because Microsoft, you legally cannot acquire a company if there's an outstanding lawsuit of a certain majority. So what that means is if there's minor lawsuits, like every company has some lawsuit, they're in some lawsuit. If it's a small lawsuit, you can purchase. There's a lot of ways around it. But because these are two huge major companies with some serious allegations that haven't really been addressed, that's why the European Union is going to look into it, because Microsoft buying Activision, again, you can't legally do it. So here's the other problem with this, just for like the quick explanation. Because these companies are so big, they're broken up into parts. So you have Activision Canada, Activision Australia, Microsoft USA, Microsoft Europe, like that kind of thing. So I'm not sure if Microsoft's buying out the whole company or just part of the company. And that's where it gets a little dicey. So if it's the overall parent company and there's lawsuits, definitely you can't buy that out. There's legal reasons. But if Microsoft was to buy out part of the company, like they just want whatever part of the company's doing Call of Duty, then maybe they can buy that. I don't know the legal aspects, and that's why they're looking into this. Hopefully that answers your question.
Well, you don't want to buy a company that has a lot of legal issues because you're responsible.
Right, but if you have Microsoft's money to settle, I mean, that'd be like, Mom, I made an error. I need you to pay for it.
Right, but it's got to be really worth my while at Microsoft to acquire that company in order to pay off your indiscretions when I can just wait.
Right.
Until you solve your own problems, pay your own fines.
That's why I think it's part of the company rather than the whole company.
Right.
That would be my guess.
The only benefit is you could get it at a discount. Like
you could,
cheaper if there's enough.
But if you end up paying the
legal fees,
plus
especially when you don't know what the legal fee will be. If it's an ongoing investigation, you don't know the final.
And then normally you would keep the CEO for a certain amount of time of Activision before you put in a new CEO or whatever you're going to do with it.
Yeah, sometimes they manage the companies.
So.
Mesh the culture.
My guess is they don't want that CEO there because of the allegations.
Well,
so they probably
involved, especially. But.
Yeah, I don't remember the whole story. It's been almost a year since these accusations came out. So, and they haven't addressed it. But when you have a company that's that big, I'm sure there's so many levels to it. That's not just
and they might keep the company as a subsidiary and still have management in place.
Right. So there's a lot of legal issues with this matter. My guess is it's going to go through anyway. Microsoft's just going to end up buying Activision, whether it's part of it or the whole company, because Microsoft just has that kind of money where they can settle or whatever they have to do. But that's really the only reason why it's a little bit of a problem, or why it's even a question.
Right.
Slayer582 posted Ukraine troops encircling Russian forces as Putin faces major defeat. I saw this the other day. I don't know when he posted this one, but the 28th. It sounds like Ukraine's starting to make a little bit of a comeback. I saw that they've gained about 1,000 kilometers of taken land back, which is good, I guess. I don't know. Truth be told, I haven't really been seeing much on this war anymore because, no offense, no one's really cared that much except for how much money we give to them.
Do you know what the biggest argument is right now? Who destroyed the pipeline?
Yes, that's the next one. So when my mom's referencing, and Slayer posted this one as well, was hundreds of pounds of TNT were used to damage the Nord Stream pipeline, and no one knows who did it. So apparently someone put 100.
No, we all know who did it.
We do, but there's speculation. So Sweden, Denmark did the joint letter, several hundred kilos of explosives. We know who did it, but Russia's blaming us. So
we the E.S.T.
Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to say I don't have enough information personally to give an answer on this one. So I might let you take this one.
Well, let's go back to the original theme whenever we talked about Ukraine in one of our first podcasts. I don't care. Sorry, I don't care. We've got billions of damage down in Florida right now. I don't want to see another dime go to Ukraine until we help our own citizens.
No,
until we rebuild all of Florida. You watch, our government will spend a fortune rebuilding areas of Ukraine that were legitimately destroyed. I'm not denying that they have conflict over there. We'll spend a fortune on that, and there'll still be places in Florida that will need government assistance and won't get it. Not to say that Governor DeSantis, they have a surplus, they have money down there. But this was a Category 4 or 5 hurricane. There's serious damage. And we've had damage here in New Jersey. We've lived through hurricanes.
But
it's bad down there in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen pictures. Our brother's down there. So
yeah, but he didn't get damage because he's in Miami. But there are places that were totally destroyed.
Totally.
And pockets of places, too. But I don't know how any government, any leader, in good conscience, could keep sending billions of dollars to another country when your own citizens are struggling. And to say, we'll give money to them in Florida. Give it all to them. How about for a change we build up our country even faster after a crisis? Because this is also the first hurricane. There could be another. We're in hurricane season. These people could get zonked again, and I don't even know the damage to North and South Carolina at this point, because that was happening yesterday and today. I haven't heard too many reports other than along the shoreline. So we have these crises in our own country, and pretty soon we're due for the fires out in California. Those usually rage every season. And we give money to other countries. It's just mind-boggling to me that you would even think of doing that at this point, you know? It's an easy way to gracefully bow out and say, hey, you know what, Ukraine, we got our own problems now.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of answers your question of who did it. But I wonder if China could have done it. But
well, I was listening to two individuals today. One was a Russian political pundit, a writer, Russian woman. She grew up in communist Russia before it was broken up like it is now. She's adamant that this was done by Putin because she knows him and she's watched, and she made an interesting case, but it wasn't a factual case. It was like he says this and he says that. Revolver had an article, Darren Beatty, and I like Darren Beatty. His group, they reference everything. It's data-based. It's not I think, I feel, and based on. He may say that, but then he'll follow up with data. And he's pretty adamant that the United States government, operatives in our government, went over there and blew up parts of that pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense either way because, again, that pipeline has been fought over now for, 5 years probably? Like, this is the...
Well, the pipeline is... as long as Putin has that pipeline and controls it, he's controlling all of Europe.
Right.
Germany is rightfully scared right now. That gets shut off. They have no gas. Their people will freeze this winter. This is not a third world country. Right. That's how much control Putin has. And it doesn't help that we stopped producing oil in our country and exporting oil to meet those needs.
Do you think Germany's just going to go right to fracking, like emergency fracking?
Well, they're trying to turn up some, I don't know if they can, but they're trying to turn on some nuclear power plants now. They're trying to get, and some coal. They're trying to go back to the good old-fashioned coal. They're not the only ones, but Germany was very tied.
How does this end? How does this issue, how do you think this is going to go down in the end?
Well, I think, it's tough to say because I think, my personal opinion is the leaders of Ukraine, not the Ukrainian people, I don't think they care about their people. I think this is a giant grift. I think they're taking the U.S. tax dollars and pocketing them, putting them in the pocket. Ukraine has always been a corrupt country. Just because there's a war doesn't mean that they're putting that money into it.
All because there's a war and they're losing doesn't mean that they're the good guys. That's the problem.
Right. There are no, in my opinion, there are no good guys involved in this. I'm not saying Putin's a good guy either. I mean, he's got his issues, but that area, from my understanding,
that's an understatement. But yeah,
basically, Ukrainian area was part of Russia to begin with, and then when you break it up, just because you change, and this is true of my own family, my relatives in Europe after World War II, just because you change the boundary after a war doesn't mean you throw a switch and everybody feels, okay, now I'm a German, okay, now I'm Polish, right? Because they gave land to Stalin after the war, and my relatives were always German. All of a sudden they were told, or Polish, all of a sudden they were told, well, now you're communist and now you're part of Poland and blah 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 blah. Just because you do that doesn't mean all of a sudden they shift their culture. Right. So many people in Ukraine had ties to the Russian culture, the Russian language. Many of them speak Russian. So I don't know, how big a deal it was for them when Putin was claiming it was his land. It became more of a political where other countries said, don't you dare take that land. And that's when it becomes war, when other groups get involved and NATO and other groups. So, my feeling is at some point, if the United States keeps losing its power in the world stage, which it's becoming a laughingstock, I'm sorry to say, around the world, China and Putin have formed an alliance, but China's economy is very bad, so I don't know how active they can, and I think you've got to just find that maybe Ukraine will give up certain lands to Russia, and that'll appease Putin, and he'll feel like he grew his empire a little bit, and then they'll go back to trying to build up. It's always the people that suffer, right?
Yeah, it's never the...
Right. The wealthy leaders will take their money that they got from the United States, from our tax dollars. They'll get their piece. They'll send money back to our politicians here, the corruption that exists, and they'll pocket their fair share. And everybody will move on, and the people will suffer. That's usually what happens after every war. Yeah. So that's how I think it's going to wind up. Some will stay Ukrainian. Some will probably fall under Russian control. But what we're trying to avoid, and I don't know if we can do it, is everybody get involved in this war.
Right. It was one of those we probably no one should have ever gotten involved to begin with, and now that everyone's involved, it's gonna, right. Who knows how it's gonna end.
But what's fascinating is you can't underestimate Giorgia Meloni in Italy. Okay, she's a conservative woman, first female prime minister. Her message is very simply, it's like a MAGA message: family first, Christianity first, Italy first. Well, the European countries, they don't like the EU. We mentioned the EU before. They don't like that. They want global, global, global. Forget that you're Italian. Think about the general. Take the refugees.
Right.
That's the mentality over there. Sweden recently had that. I told you that. And tomorrow, it's Bolsonaro down in Brazil. He's Brazil, right? That's a big election. It's either him or Lulu is the communist alternative. And that's serious for us because now it's on this side of the world. The communism is growing, if you will. And that's not supposed to happen. But when democracy gets weaker, it's a vacuum. And communism comes in, like, in my opinion, like a disease, because I believe in democracy. Communism doesn't work. It's oppressive. So if that starts coming to this side of the world, now you got issues. That's why you like to see somebody like a Giorgia Meloni saying, you know what, we're Italians. Stop telling us what to do. She wants to turn her country around. Same thing with the Ukrainians. When they start seeing people becoming more, or countries becoming more nationally based, caring about their own borders, their own country, like we've tried to do here, especially over there. It empowers the people in places like Ukraine to say, we've had enough. We don't want to keep dying. We don't want bombs. We're tired of... There was 2 girls on, and I have to say there were 2 Ukrainian girls. And they were girls meaning literally girls, young teenage type. And she had a great point in her broken English. She goes, I go to stores, I see online, I see people raising money for Ukraine people. There's jars at stores. Where is that money? We don't have it.
Yeah, wow.
See how that works? I mean, remember the push when this war started?
Yeah.
Everybody raising money. Everybody had a Ukrainian flag out. You put money in a jar. They're collecting here. They're collecting there. When all is said and done, when they meet with the people of Ukraine and ask them, that's the kind of questions they're going to say. Where is all that money that you people raised? Because we sure didn't get it.
Well, I know Romania is helping Ukrainians get out because they don't want to deal with their... actually, Top G, what's his name? Andrew Tate and his brother have been helping a lot of the Ukrainians out.
Get out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I'm trying to help the Russians out because they don't want to fight.
Yeah.
So many of the males, they're not allowed to leave the country.
To my mom's point, it's the elites and the generals and whatever, the politicians that are fighting. These people want nothing to do with it on both sides.
Some of them are fighting relatives, right? Because it's Ukraine. It's Russian, meaning they know these people or they can relate to these people. Now you want to send them to war to fight these people for a war that they don't want to be involved in.
Yeah.
They can care less about.
That's why they have to get out. Yeah. So Romania's been helping them a lot. I don't know what else is in that area. I'm not great with geography, but as far as I know, Romania is really like their number one hope right now for the Ukrainian people, not the Ukraine as a country. And
well, we were taking refugees. Ukrainian refugees are coming here,
Mm-hmm. So
don't get me started with the whole refugee thing.
But I think a lot of those Ukrainians have family already in Romania from like generations, so they just go over and like a big amount, like it's like a thing that there's like a mass vacation, I guess you could say, where they
go back and forth.
Romania, Croatia,
right? Those areas that are right nearby. Yeah, right.
I mean, so they have family members there. It's kind of like the different, like if we had family in Canada, it's like you just drive up there. But because they're like an island, you have to fly and stuff. So,
well, yeah, they're isolated.
Yeah, they're pretty isolated. Yeah. So there's hope. There's hope for them. But I think the government, it's one of those things we should have never got involved in. But that's where we are now. But
wars like that, they get the American people involved, and you have to take a step back and say, why are we involved in this in the first place? And unless you were living under a rock, there was a question mark. And that's being kind. There was a question mark as to what involvement did our current president have with Ukraine before he became president.
Yeah.
So even if you want to go down that road, just the fact that there was a question mark, right? why would we even be,
question mark, and now we kind of have overwhelming evidence that says that there was at least something there. Whether you're on right or left, there's something
going on.
Yeah,
and that makes me a little skeptical when you go and start dumping all this money into a war that, what interest do we have there?
Exactly.
I don't get it.
It's kind of like the same with Iraq. What was our interest in Iraq? And then all of a sudden we had the drug war.
Right.
So,
and claiming that, okay, well, although I will say the previous president did put his foot down and say, you do not go near Ukraine. If you go near Ukraine, you're not going to like what you get. And that's what kept
Russia
Putin
at bay,
because they knew the next president, once they saw the writing on the wall, they go, we'll be able to do it, no problem, once the other guy's out. Because, what's this other one going to do? They're not stupid, these leaders. They know grifters when they see them. Yeah. They know people that just want the money, and I'm sure Putin is more aware than we are of what type of arrangements go on in Ukraine, corrupt arrangements
absolutely.
With whoever. I'm not even saying specifically our country, but anywhere. They're not operating in a vacuum either. So I go back to, since we don't have control over it other than the election, and picking people that might say, you know what, regardless of how I feel about Ukraine, let's fix our own country first. We got our own problems here.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So that was it. That was it for questions and everything. So again, as you guys know, you don't have to just post articles. You can post questions. I know we had a little bit of a conversation today in the Discord, but yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. As you guys also know, we moved to Spotify. So for those of you that don't want to listen on YouTube, you can always listen on Spotify. It's the KAKE Shop. It's the same thing as the YouTube podcast. It might be a little difficult to find because it's a newer podcast, but if you type it in, we're the only ones. We're pretty easy.
Did you like my Rogan thing?
Oh, yeah, in our group chat, yeah. But yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. 14 down, many more to go. So you guys have a good one, and we'll see you in the next one. Okay.